Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really fascinating and honestly deeply resonant concept. It's called editing your inner world. And the core premise here, it's incredibly bold. We're talking about the architecture of radical becoming. So it's not just about tweaking a few habits here and there, it's about completely redesigning how you interact with reality, literally from the inside out. We're going to explore the specific mechanics of personal transformation, breaking down exactly how someone transitions from feeling entirely stuck to actually designing a life of pure intention.
Now, I want you to sit with this question for just a second. What if the life you've been living was never really yours to begin with? Wow, right? It speaks directly to that heavy, bone-deep exhaustion of living life on a continuous loop. You know the feeling, going through the motions, checking all the boxes society gives you, but feeling completely disconnected from the actual experience of your own life. It really asks us to consider if our current reality is truly of our own making or if we're just playing out an inherited script.
Which brings us to section 1, the life not yours, recognizing the repeat cycle. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens to so many of us. If you're someone who wakes up and basically recognizes how the day is going to play out before it's even begun, you're going to feel this. On the left side, we have the standard modern self-improvement toolkit, right? Goals, vision boards, affirmations. We've all tried them. But on the right is the painful reality, finding yourself completely stuck in the exact same maze. You can do all the quote-unquote right things, try all those conventional methods, and still remain totally frozen. It just highlights the absolute failure of these surface-level tools when your foundational internal architecture hasn't actually been addressed. That leads us right into section 2, beyond traditional self-help, a paradigm shift. Let's get one thing straight. This is definitively not your standard toxic positivity. Okay? It's not about forcing a smile when things are falling apart or pretending your life is perfect. Instead, it's a radical invitation to think differently and really question what you've simply accepted as true all these years. Rather than constantly seeking permission from the outside world, this framework is all about understanding yourself, your relationship with money, and the systems around you so that you can move through life with actual clarity, intention, and power. It's about taking the reins back, rather than just slapping a Band-Aid on the symptoms. Because as it says right here, the outer world shifts when the inner world does. And that is the core engine of everything we are talking about today. True, lasting change, the kind that actually alters your day-to-day reality, requires practical inner work first. The shift absolutely has to start from within. It's kind of like a house. You can't just buy some fancy new couch cushions and expect a cracked foundation to heal itself, right? Moving right along to section 3, meet your guide, Salima, and the architect's pivot. To truly grasp this whole framework, we have to look at its architect, Salima. And the great thing is, she isn't some untouchable guru sitting on a mountaintop. She was that exact woman, trying desperately to just be acceptable to everyone else. She describes carrying unnecessary stones, taking on weights and obligations that were literally never hers to bear. She knocked on wrong doors, trying to force opportunities that just weren't meant for her. And she sat in silence when she definitely should have spoken up. It brings such an incredibly grounded, empathetic energy to that exhausting experience of trying to cram yourself into a mold that just wasn't designed for you. Let's move to and see how this builds, because that exhaustion eventually sparked a massive evolution. Step 1 started with that draining effort of trying to be acceptable, which finally hit a boiling point in step 2 during a deeply frustrating conversation. That friction led to step 3, a radical decision to stop seeking permission to think, to dream, and to create. And the result? Step 4, 120 videos later, she's showing up consistently, still editing, and still becoming. It's a beautifully dynamic transformation from hitting an absolute brick wall to taking completely unapologetic action. All right, section 4, the inner world architecture, the framework of becoming. This framework gets highly practical by connecting 5 key pillars together. First, it starts by uncovering the hidden beliefs and patterns quietly running your life in the background. Then it connects those directly to your inner world and your relationship with wealth. Next, it layers in spiritual and energetic laws, grounding those exact ideas in real stories of men and women who chose themselves against all odds. And finally, it zooms way out to examine how the hidden systems and design of the world actually operate. Suddenly, when you map the whole shebang out like this, everything just starts to make perfect sense. So the crucial point is this. The ultimate goal of mastering those pillars means you stop being lived by life and start designing it. That is the true shift here, guys. It moves you from being a passive participant, someone who life just sort of happens to, into an active architect. It's an incredibly empowering stance, completely replacing victimhood with an authoritative, creative energy over your very own existence. And that brings us to Section 5, your radical invitation, the courage to begin. Look, Salima is the first to admit she doesn't have it all 100% figured out. She is on this journey right alongside you. But she does offer a super clear 3-step starting line. Step 1, subscribe and really commit to the process. Step 2, grab your journal and prepare for some tangible, practical inner work. And Step 3, let's begin. It's just a clean, decisive invitation to stop waiting around for external permission and start the editing process right now. Which leaves you with one final, lingering question to ponder. Are you ready to stop being lived by life? The responsibility is entirely in your hands to take radical ownership of your inner architecture. If the outer world really does shift only when the inner world does, when will you begin the edit? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to break down the ideas that shape our world.